This is TWiT.
The robots are about to take over. This week, both Microsoft and Google announced AI in search. Microsoft started it all on, was that Tuesday? Yeah, I think Tuesday they announced Microsoft is going to use OpenAI's ChatGPT in Bing search. I attempted to use it. In order to do it, you have to use Microsoft Edge, sign up for Bing to be your default search engine. You pretty much have to give your entire Windows machine over to Microsoft. And I still didn't get access to it. But some have, and we've seen some demos of it. What do you think, Shelly? You've probably, as most of us have, played with ChatGPT.
Sure, and I haven't done the Bing thing because I am a -1 Windows machine, so we Mac users are going to be in the dark for a little while.
But you know what? I think they want you to. I think they want you to.
Oh, I'm sure they do.
Yeah, they'd like you to change your search engine to Bing.com.
Sure. I mean, goodbye, DuckDuckGo. Off to Bing. I am going. No, I don't know. I think we've sort of gone from isn't this ChatGPT stuff amazing to very quickly, which is what I would have expected to happen, is this is going to be, what does it mean to say this is going to be the next big thing? What business application is it going to have? And the first one is search, which is why so much of the story this week has been the competition between Microsoft and Google, and the stories that say Google is wrong-footed even before it had the problem with their demo. Google is wrong-footed relative to Microsoft because Microsoft, has access to ChatGPT, and Google's trying to counter them. And so it's sort of a weird mishmash of stories where some of us are amazed by this technology. Some of us, and we run the risk of being called Luddites if we say it out loud, some of us are concerned about it, and some of us are just writing cool business stories about chat wars or AI wars, and it's an interesting time.
Brian, didn't Google call a red alert when they found out that when Microsoft admitted, we've put another $10 billion into ChatGPT and we're going to use it in search? Didn't this scare Google?
Yes, absolutely. And of course, the ironic thing is that this is all technology that Google created years ago and open sourced. The T in ChatGPT, I believe, is the part of the technology that Google
Transformer.
Yeah. So what I have heard from listeners that work at Google that can't be named, of course, but also this was echoed in I think it was TechCrunch had an article a couple days ago about this too, that what happened was, if you remember, there was the time when there was a lot of controversy where, certain AI people in Google were writing papers saying we shouldn't do certain things. Certain people were fired. There was a lot of controversy around this stuff. And also, so number one, you have this was culturally divisive within Google. So that's why maybe it didn't get productized. Number two, you have the classic innovator's dilemma of, well, would this kill the golden goose? If you don't follow a link to get the answer you need, then we're not making as much money. But the thing that I heard that was echoed in the TechCrunch piece was that the way that you get money for projects inside Google is to affix it to another big team. So for example, the chatbot team or the search team or the maps team or whatever. And if you think about it, we've seen that the last 3 or 4 Google I/Os have been little bits of AI added to maps, AI added to this, as opposed to essentially what I've heard is no one had the constituency or the power to say, well, let's go and make this a full product or a full division. And so because of that, they were sort of dripping it into other little things. And then OpenAI comes in and just releases the whole product. And that's what they weren't prepared for.
Yeah, Google went through, you're talking about firing Timnit Gebru, who wrote a paper called Stochastic Parrots with other Google researchers. She was at in the ethics division of Google AI, and in which she said, this is going to be potentially problematic, not only because of limitations in training data and so forth, but also people trust computers, and when a computer comes up with the wrong answer, it carries more weight than when a human comes up with the wrong answer. She got fired. Then there was Brent Lemoyne, the priest, I guess you call him, who was working in with Lambda, who said, "Oh no, it's gone sentient," and then Google immediately fired him because it hadn't, and it was ridiculous to say so. Maybe Lemoyne had the right idea, though. Do you think Google was too judicious, Sam? Do you think they should have productized sooner?
No, I don't think they should have productized sooner, and I'm not convinced that OpenAI and Microsoft should be doing it now. As you mentioned, the paper that Timnit Gebru and her colleagues did, on the dangers of stochastic parrots. Stochastic parrot is defined as a system of haphazardly stitching together sequences of linguistic forms that have been observed in training data according to probabilistic information about how they combine.
That's how it works.
But without any reference to meaning.
Yes.
And that is the key, is that these models don't really understand. They are not intelligent. They're
not even trying to be factual in many cases.
Right. They're sophisticated pattern matching mechanisms, but they don't really understand what it. And this applies really across the board to most AI applications. Whether it's large language models or machine vision systems or anything else. That none of them we throw around the terms AI, but none of these systems are actually anything close to human intelligence, the way the human brain works. They don't function the way a brain works. It's a very, very rough approximation. And, from what I've seen, I think the best description I've seen of ChatGPT is, that, what was the phrase? It's very confidently wrong.
Yeah. It's a mansplainer.
Right. It puts together strings of words in a sequence that looks really plausible.
Right.
Well, and it's combined with very well done writing, like just in terms of not only just grammar and structure. It can make a sentence, but it can make sentences that read well, which is why so many people have applied it to making a document, write a news story, write an academic paper, write this thing, and it
can write code. It can write runnable code.
Right.
Right, but that's kind of a different issue, because the syntax of the writing is one of the things that always sort of alerts you. You've seen plenty of spam emails that come to you from a non-English speaker, or you've seen stuff that was generated by some sort of AI, some sort of computer, and you think you can always tell. You're like, I know that's not generated by a human or by a human that had a certain amount of education. But you read this ChatGPT stuff, and it reads as if it's well constructed, and that gives the authenticity and authority of facts that aren't there.
So I a month ago I did an experiment, and I shared it on the show, where I tried to create 2 entire YouTube videos from scratch, using not only the video selected by AI, but the writing made by ChatGPT and the actual the voice itself. Again, not my voice, it was a complete robot voice or whatever. Narrowing in on the ChatGPT part of it, so I picked the real story of Robinson Crusoe, because that was based on a guy that really did get marooned, and then the Crystal Palace in the 1851 exhibition in London, blah blah blah. Just 2 things that I had recently read about, and so I knew enough about. The interesting thing is that, so like, let's say you would say, give me 1,000 words on whether or not Robinson Crusoe was based on a true story. And it would give you a perfect 3rd grade level essay about it, but it would miss all of the details that, again, since I had just seen a History Channel thing on it, I knew there were more details. So I would have to go in and say, okay, but tell me about how he survived on the island. Okay, now tell me about what happened to him after he was rescued. Now tell me about how Robert Louis Stevenson found out about this story. So it was never wrong. And again, think about the fact that I knew enough to know if it was doing the wrong thing, but that wasn't even the thing that was interesting to me. Because obviously, if you don't know the facts, you wouldn't know if it was wrong. But to get it to be a good enough sort of story, I also had to know the story. Like, it wasn't good enough yet to be as sophisticated as I wanted it to be, just to make a 5-minute long YouTube video. And so again, we're talking about people trying to train it to do things that are factual. It was also like, I felt like a conductor more than, it was all prompt engineering. And if you didn't know what you were talking about to begin with, it sure helped save you time to write all the words, but it's not like it did everything without me knowing word one, you know?
But why are we expecting so much of it? It's so funny because on the one hand, we're kind of like children blown away by the capabilities of this thing. On the other hand, we're going, "But it's so stupid," and why are we expecting so much of it? It's a part.
It's kind of what I was getting to before. It's because those of us who are interested in tech, and now even those of us who might not be, but who have seen this thing do something that's, it's amazing, right? It seems amazing. We're excited about it. But then you have Microsoft and Google and all these companies that have to productize it. Otherwise, why do it? Yeah. And even if Google didn't have the history with AI that it did, they have to productize it because Microsoft is doing it, which is why, we're forcing it into search right now. Right. And whether search is the best or worst application, they've got to find some way to put it into products, which I don't think is good for us as humans. It may be successful for those companies. It may, in fact, lead to better AI, however we define it. I don't know whether that means accurate or what it means, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's a good thing for us that we have more AI, but it keeps Microsoft and Google afloat, I suppose.
Even in December, this is a headline from the New York Times from December. A new chatbot is a code red for Google's search business. A new wave of chatbots like ChatGPT use artificial intelligence that could reinvent or even replace the traditional internet search engine. So even back in December, this terrified Google. And of course, Microsoft had the announcement on Tuesday. On Wednesday, Google hastily threw together its own event where they announced they were going to have their own ChatGPT-like AI called Bard, originally Apprentice Bard, be in Google search. They didn't say when, nor did Microsoft, by the way. It's not available generally yet. But they did show a animated GIF of Bard answering a question. What new discoveries from the James Webb Space Telescope can I tell my 9-year-old about? And it got it wrong. 2 of the 3 answers it provided were correct. But in the third bullet point was, and you could tell your 9-year-old, we got the first pictures of an exoplanet, a Earth-like planet in another solar system, to which many astronomers, including one astronomer from the University of California, Santa Cruz, said, I took a picture of an exoplanet 14 years ago. What are you talking about? So you got to wonder, was there nobody at Google looking at these answers or checking? And that's certainly not a good way to announce your new chat for search.
They were using the editors from CNET.
Right.
Yeah. But now I think, another big issue with using search as the first application for this, as the first mainstream application for this, is the fact that, AIs don't really learn these models don't learn on the fly. You have to run them through your training data. And every time that data set changes, you have to completely rerun that training. That's why when you play with ChatGPT, the GPT 3.5 model was trained on data back in 2021. So it was current up through the moment that they ran the training in 2021. But if you ask it about anything that is from the last 2 years, it will almost certainly get it wrong. And for a search engine, it has to be current. It has to be kept current in real time all the time. And this is again also one of the challenges with automated driving, where you're trying to use AI, that the models have to be continuously updated. And for something like a search engine that is so vast, there's so much data out there, rerunning that training continuously to keep it fresh, within minutes or at least hours, which is what we expect today from a Google or Bing or DuckDuckGo. When something pops up on the web, we expect it to be found almost immediately. That doing that with a large language model seems like it would be both impractical and use enormous amounts of energy and time to do that.
Tech Break is brought to you by ACI Learning. ACI Learning has all the tools your employees need to make your business thrive. Give your team the gift of enjoyment while learning. Courses are entertaining and binge-worthy, keeping your team interested and vested in their learning. Visit acilearning.com and give your IT team superpowers with ACI Training.